When it comes to early access, nothing dominates the scene like the survival genre. So many games such as Ark Survival Evolved, Rust, 7 Days to Die all started out in early access before getting a full release. You then have others like Rising World that will most likely remain in early access purgatory for many years to come. That brings us to today's game in IfSunSets. Developed by Polymorph, this title has you stumble upon a pirate-themed island that has fantasy elements including a fairy that accompanies you throughout the game. Despite the fact that I've played many survival games of various quality, the setting intrigues me as there aren't many pirate-themed games in the genre. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is Survival Fountain of Youth, which I personally didn't enjoy. With that said, is IfSunSets a worthy survival game, or is it better left to the early access purgatory? So when you start the game, you can begin a single player game or a multiplayer one. The multiplayer is currently in beta, so I decided to stick with the single player one. From here, you can decide to create a world and ultimately choose your difficulty. There's 4 to choose from, including easy, medium, hard, and safe night. There's also a custom difficulty mode, which is always appreciated to see. And fun fact, you can also change several aspects about the difficulty during gameplay, which is another appreciated feature. So after picking the difficulty, you can then create your character. Outside of the very limited options here so far, you can also adjust your stats. The 4 stats are health, stamina, attack, and defense. Each isn't too important to worry about now, as leveling up and other means will allow you to increase your stats. More on that later. So after creating a character, you're then given an okay cutscene with some pretty bad narration. Once that's complete, you are awakened by a fairy named Belifa. She saved you from a shipwreck and brought you back to life because you are some chosen one or something like that. Honestly, the story isn't much at this point in early access, so I wouldn't worry about the narrative too much. After that, you can participate in the tutorial if you so desire, or just start the main game. Honestly, I would recommend to skip the tutorial as many of the same activities you would do on the island anyways, so it makes this fairly redundant. If you've played survival games before, you'll definitely feel right at place and you won't be lost at all skipping the tutorial. So now that we are on the island, we must fend for ourselves. We start off on the coastline where we can see several barrels full of stuff, a skeleton, and a note telling us not to venture too far off in the forest just yet. Since there is a small fortified camp near the coast, we will use that as our base going forward, especially to protect against the creatures of the night. We don't have a lot to start off with as expected, so it's time to build some basic tools like an axe and a pickaxe to get some resources. So if you've played many survival games in the past, IfSunSets will feel very familiar from a gameplay perspective. You'll need to gather the basic wood and stone resources as well as watch your hunger and thirst levels. Most food you find will need to be cooked at a fire as well as contaminated water needing to be boiled. Temperature is also a concern, but that's only something to worry about at certain areas on the island. You'll also need to build a workbench in order to craft more advanced items. There's quite a few items to find out in the wild to use to craft with, but it doesn't get as grindy as other games can be. As is the trend with many survival games nowadays, the world is completely handcrafted. As much as I do like the random nature of procedural generated worlds, a handcrafted one gives the developers more opportunities to create special moments and even improve on the narrative. While the latter is not yet fleshed out at the moment, the former is very strong in this regard. Honestly, this game reminds me of Outward, especially with exploring the island. Just like that game, certain areas of the map will have unique loot you can find. You even got mini bosses who reappear after killing them, so this ultimately means that these enemies can be farmed fairly regularly, especially for the loot. There's also food that helps with the heat and variety of weapons that you can find from basic clubs to pistols and rifles. And speaking of combat, that is what you'll be dealing with when the zombies attack every night and when exploring the island. So you'll start off fighting boars for their meat and leather to much stronger creatures who can quickly take you out if you're not properly prepared. The strength of the combat comes with not only the variety of weapons, but with the ability to use fairy powers during battles. Some of these can be quite powerful, such as an AoE attack that does damage in a pretty wide area. While the variety of combat is the biggest strength here, it really struggles with balancing and the overall smoothness. Two-handed weapons are honestly way too slow to use, while the fairy powers can be quite OP, especially the projectile one when fully upgraded. Most enemies also don't have ranged attacks, so you can dominate with a pistol with the proper ammunition. Hit detection is also hit and miss, with you getting hit even after clearly dodging the enemy. There are also boss battles as well. That is honestly where these issues are highlighted to the extreme. Boss battles can be found at certain locations where you'll need to solve a puzzle to unlock the code. Once unlocked, you'll be able to fight them and even get a cutscene to introduce them. These are quite hard as expected and can easily one-shot you, especially with the tracking many of these attacks have. While I really don't enjoy these, they are worth it for the unique loot you can obtain. I defeated my first boss in Brownbeard and got a pretty powerful sword and armor set that was a huge step up from my current equipment. I also gained a ton of skill points to use to upgrade my character. And yes, there is a level up system as mentioned prior. You gain separate experience for yourself and your fairy friend. Both of you have pretty massive skill trees to put points in, which is much appreciated for the variety of builds you can make. For your main character, you can also put points within your stats of health, stamina, attack, and defense. Overall, a very good leveling up system here. And of course, we have to talk about the night mechanic in this game. As the title suggests, if, but more like when the sun sets, a horde of zombies will attack your location, and I do mean a freaking horde of them. Thankfully, the starting coastline already has a base for you to take advantage of, with spike traps and a gate. For the first couple of nights you can get away with this, but eventually you'll need to upgrade the traps and come up with some new ones such as a turret to shoot with. Outside of the ability to farm a huge amount of experience points and get a reward for surviving a night, this mechanic just plain sucks. It honestly just becomes a game of spamming as many traps as possible and playing keep away from the enemy. While you can make offerings to shrines to make the next night a safe one, I would just recommend to turn it off entirely and play the game that way. The exploration and crafting go a long way to make this game enjoyable, so this zombie mechanic honestly just feels pointless. Maybe if it's scaled better or if the combat was much improved, it would be fun, but as of now, it's just tedious and quite monotonous. And so as this is an early access game, bugs and glitches are to be expected. Thankfully, I haven't ran into anything too crazy outside of one where the game would think I'm swimming for some reason, even though I'm on land. The optimization also needs a bit of work. I'm running a 7900 XTX with a 7900 X3D processor, so it shouldn't be a struggle to run a game that looks like this, honestly. Other people who have NVIDIA video cards also reported similar issues, so it looks to be an overall game optimization problem. Overall, IfSunSets is definitely worth an early access purchase. The ferry mechanic is unique and interesting, the pirate survival setting used very well here, and the exploration of the handcrafted island is top notch. Once multiplayer is in a more stable state, it can be an even higher recommendation for me. The only major gripes I have is with the combat needing a lot more polish, especially with the zombies attack and the optimization issues I've mentioned prior. The current price is $20, which is a very good value for the content on display here. There's a ton to craft, discover, and explore, so you can easily get your money's worth. It was also given a 30% discount at one point, bringing the price to a steal at $14. The price is stated to go up at the full release, so definitely keep an eye out for any price fluctuations if you plan on purchasing this title. And as always, thank you for watching, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.